Greetings one and all. This is my Mic Tech Top Tip. 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 Before I get into it, do you like the new setup? It's just for show, really. Well, not. I've got them. So I might as well have them because I keep using the SV33 and I thought, let's have another one. There's the Ethos, but I might change it. And then I've had this clamp thing and I thought, let me have a spare. A guest mic every now and then. So I can do stuff like this. I can move on to the Biodynamic V90R quite easily. I can move on to the Biodynamic V90R quite easily. And I can position things there so I can have a guest microphone if I require. Or I could use the Earthworks Ethos. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. I just thought I'd explain why I've got these good mic in there. Anyway, let me put this one back down so it doesn't feel out of it. I'm on the Erland EH something. There's only one, but Erland make vocal mic. Just thought I'd use it for this because it's quite an appropriate mic for what I'm going to talk about. So what is this top tip? Well, now, here's my suggestion. I'd like you to imagine that this microphone is the ear of your beloved. And she, he, they are quite close to you. So you notice how you'd naturally speak if your beloved was here. And speaking in this way, there's quite a bit of air. You can hear the breath, in-breath. And you can hear the air, the breath parts, the air parts of the voice. And because I'm speaking quite quietly and quite low, you can hear an amount of low frequencies. If my beloved moves away, and I continue to speak in the same way, it's not really sufficient. So what I'm going to do is raise my voice somewhat to make sure that my beloved can hear what I'm saying. I wouldn't do that if my beloved was right here, because we're being considerate. So naturally I'd do that if my beloved was this distance. If she moves further away, or he, or they, then I'm going to raise my voice even more, because I want my beloved to be able to hear what I'm saying. If my beloved goes to the kitchen, even more. Now I'm going to put my hand on the meter and bring the meter down. Because if I keep doing it now, like this, it's okay because I brought the meter down considerably. So I can use that part of my voice and it's not going to be uncomfortable. Let me put it back now. So you understand what I'm saying. We naturally alter the voice. When it's further away and we start to raise our voice a bit, we get those kind of frequencies that cut through because we know instinctually that they, like babies screaming, that's going to carry. And that bit cuts through. The bass part, when I do that there, that kind of thing, the bass isn't there so much because the energy's gone into, I've changed things, it's gone there. And also the in-breath and all the other breath parts aren't so obvious. So it's just that is what happens. And that does get through. And if it's in someone's ear and it's close like this, it's going to be unpleasant. What am I saying then? I'm saying get yourself a mic and an audio interface and play with all these things. And then we've got this signal going through to an amplifier, going through to big speakers when we're on stage. And your audience is some way off. But I'm saying to you, remember, the audience is some way off, but this relationship they're still hearing because it's been amplified and it's coming through big speakers and being fired at them. So they're still hearing this, apart from certain types of music, which I'll get to later. So that's why I'm saying for many types of music where you can hear the voice, you can imagine that this is the ear of your beloved, and then you can adjust your voice and adjust the microphone positioning depending on what you want to do, depending on what you want to do, depending on what you want to do. That's something you could play with, I think. If I were to raise my voice and keep it here on a gig, then I would get more signal, possibly overdrive the amplifiers, but if the amplifiers had the muscle headroom, they could take it. So it would be very loud out of the speakers. But they would hear that part, because when I raise my voice, that's what's going to happen. They wouldn't hear so much of the breath. They wouldn't hear so much of the bass. Occurred to me then, that might be why some of these microphones designed for that kind of singing have the proximity effect is useful, because the bass, when you're doing that, there's not so much bass anyway. You might have to get rid of the bluster at the very low end. And also they're adding even more of that to it, because they know that's the bit that's going to cut through. If there's when you raise your voice, that's the bit that we find intelligible. Okay. Now let me tell you a story related to this. I remember being at a gig in a pub. It's nice enough. Music was quite loud, not stadium loud, quite loud. Lots of people were talking. It was all quite exciting and everything with it there. And the fellow next to me was trying to tell me something. I think something about what the bass player's doing. I couldn't hear. So I was saying, no, yeah. So he did as we would. He raised his voice and more or less, not intentionally really, but effectively shouted in my ear, which was very uncomfortable. I got a sort of shooting pain through. I thought, wow, I know how to do that. But what could he do? So on very loud stages, what can you do? You're not going to hear, no way. You get feedback. No way you'll be able to turn a mic loud enough for that. And it'd be inappropriate. It would get drowned out with all the... So what you're trying to do is just get that through. So that's what we're going to be doing. Bring the mic up close because you want the volume, and you're just shouting into it. And then with my analogy that I had earlier, of course, all right, now the audience are going to hear you doing that right up against the ear. Let me turn it down a bit. They're going to hear you doing that right up against the ear. They're going to hear you doing that, and that's coming out of the speaker loud. But it doesn't really matter because everything else is loud as well. And all you're going to hope for the best in that situation is just to be able to get some little bit of the voice through there with everything else that's going on like that, and you're not really interested in all the detail and the bass. You're not going to get any of that anyway. You're just going to be lucky enough, like with that guy, you're lucky enough to get, and even then it just went beyond the laws of physics, if you like. He was so loud that my ear couldn't take it, and I still couldn't hear what he was saying. So that, I think, is a bit of an analogy on why certain microphones might be adequate for such a situation. Okay, now I've gone on to the Earthworks ethos. You can hear much more of the... I've got the back door open. It's a nice day. Maybe it's a bit loud as well. I don't know. That's it then. I'm saying one way you could practice headphones and blah, and just get used to notice what happens when you get closer, notice what happens when you get closer, notice what happens when you get further away, it drops off, and notice that if you want to compensate for that being further away, that then you do this a bit more, that then you do this. So this is your mic technique a bit. So I move the mic away a bit if I'm going to do that, because I don't want coming out of the speaker loud the sound of me doing that right up against someone's ear. So that's your artistry with it, balancing that with what you're doing with your voice and all that affords you. It affords you so much, doesn't it, to play with? Come on now. It gives you so much to play with. That's going to work for many kinds of music where people can hear the voice, but as it gets louder and louder, and you have to get louder and louder, and it gets more and more cluttered, then the more you're going to have to start doing that, and the closer you're going to have to get to do with that, and I think in the end, the less you've just got that, and that's all. And you'll be lucky to be heard, really, from my experience in life, just with that. I'll do another video on microphone choice, because that wasn't really what this is about. Yeah, I'll say that for another video on bearing that in mind, what I've just said. Okay, are these posh mics a waste of time, a waste of money then? We'll see. That's for another video. Anyway, I hope this has been of food for thought. And I'll catch you next time. Adios.